We are live on YouTube, the Sick Podcast, Jets Flight Club.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Jets Fight Club. The sickest New York Jets podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Jake Brown Radio Live, emergency episode of the Sick Podcast, Jets Flight Club. It has happened. After a tumultuous tenure with the New York Jets, God was it awful. Robert Saleh has been fired from the Jets. 20-36 was his record. He left no lasting impression of being a good head coach. He held no players accountable to the point Quincy Williams in a postgame said there needs to be accountability. Clearly, the team had turned on him. Clearly, his relationship with Aaron Rodgers was not good. But once again, are you surprised that there is dysfunction in Jets land? You can argue with me, they did this too soon. This is weird timing. They're only 2-3. It feels like a panic move. And I don't disagree with any of those. But I'll say this. You can't afford to keep losing football games. And what tells you if Robert Saleh stays here that they will turn around and win football games? And Rodgers had turned on him. And I know, I have a very good feeling that Aaron Rodgers went into Woody Johnson's office and said, hey, I think we need to move on. But what's funny about all this is that he raved about Saleh going in. But I think now that he sees him as the head coach and he's playing, because remember, he never saw him coach during the regular season while he was an active player. He was hurt. So now he's seeing it, and I think he's sick of it. He just arrived at the quarterback meetings just now in his fourth season. Robert Saleh did nothing for this team. He didn't make them better. His whole aura was, look at his excitement, look at his exuberance on the field, look how, he's fired up, look what he brings to the table, blah, blah, blah. But he's completely unaware of what happens on offense. He's completely lacking accountability. Doesn't, same mistakes happen every week. He says, I'm not a push-up guy. I'm not that kind of guy. This isn't a Girl Scout meeting. This is the NFL. This is the National Football League. And you got to pony up. And I'm sorry. He wasn't cutting it here. Here's the issue. Why is Nathaniel Hackett still here? And I'm waiting. I'm refreshing Twitter. I'm waiting for a report of is Hackett going with him? But because Hackett's, Rodgers' best friend, he probably won't go. But everything surrounding this, it reeks of the same old Jets. It happens on a Tuesday morning, which is weird because they played Sunday. I know they were traveling back, but they waited an extra day. They got Monday Night Football, so I guess the thought is, hey, we got the extra day because we don't play Sunday. And they have it against a division rival in the Buffalo Bills in a game that actually determines first place in the division. How about that? Jets win. They're in first place. I don't think keeping him here any longer was going to help. I also think it's kind of bizarre that it's happening Tuesday after the London game. It feels like a panic kind of move. Here's a good thing. Jeff Ulbrich will be the interim head coach, and I think that's big. The fact we know now that it's not Hackett as head coach, I think is great. I think Ulbrich is a leader type. Ulbrich had the Senior Bowl to get his little cup of coffee as a head coach and see how it is. And He's more stern. I think he'll hold guys more accountable than Robert Saleh ever did. So that's the good part of this is that I actually trust Ulbrich, despite him not being a head coach ever, more than I trust Saleh. But something's still got to change offensively, and Hackett's been a major problem. So I don't know if it may still come later. We might, finish this and they get the news. But Hackett is a major issue along with this. I think it starts up top, and I think it's the right move. I also think Robert Saleh becomes the first coach in the NFL history to be fired after an international game. The Jets setting milestones and records for all the wrong reasons. And this Jets-Bills game becomes very intriguing now. Because you went into this thinking, it's going to be same old Jets. They're not going to win Monday night. You're going to disappoint their fan base. Now you go in and say, hey, let's see how Jeff Ulbrich does as head coach. While it is 100% dysfunctional, while they may have pulled the trigger too soon, whatever you want to say, I do think it helps the football team. I do think they're in a better position without Robert Saleh as head coach, without the lack of accountability, with him coddling players. The team turned to Robert Saleh. And this is a move that should have been done before the year, but their excuse kept being, let's wait for Saleh. And now 5 games in, or let's wait for Rodgers. Now 5 games into the Rodgers era in terms of him being a starting quarterback, Robert Saleh is gone. And how about this? If the Jets want to really dominate the day, as I'm about to head to Citi Field in a little bit for game 3 of the NLDS, the Davante Adams rumors were out last night. It felt like Davante Adams today would also be a Jet. How about that the Jets fire Saleh in the morning and trade for Davante Adams in the afternoon? Talk about dominating the news cycle. It's a Jets world. And Mekhi Becton posted and deleted I don't know where this is from. But I forget where this is from, but it's a funny photo of like a guy at a funeral. And clearly players didn't like him. I mean, Becton and other players have liked tweets about this coaching staff. This whole coaching staff outside of Ulbrich, I don't think we're well liked. They were just an undisciplined team that showed zero signs of ever improving. Every week was the same old song and dance with these guys. False starts, delayed games, penalties. It was nauseating to watch. You wonder, too, now. Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee Tuesday, if he actually is on today, boy, that turns into a must-see Rodgers interview. Solid, nice guy, a good defensive coach, likable. But you don't always want to be likable as a head coach. You don't want to be Mr. Softy. This isn't the ice cream cone. This is the NFL. And in many cases, Robert Saleh felt like Mr. Softy in his entire Jets tenure. And the whole cadence thing, that was the beginning of the end for me. Once the cadence disagreement with Rodgers and, can't overlook the hug thing. Now that looking back on that, that's another layer in this. I know they were trying to make it a non-story of he's not a big hugger, but they didn't like each other. Aaron Rodgers looked at Robert Saleh like he was a clown. And he's not wrong. Thank God Hackett isn't the interim head coach, but he's the other layer of this. Is the offense doesn't change if it's the same playbook. And I don't know if you bring in a new coach and have a brand new playbook. You can't really do that in the middle of the season, so I understand that. But maybe switching it up, having Todd Downing call the plays, fire Hackett and have Downing become the offensive coordinator. See what happens. Woody looks at this as a win-now team, and Diana Rossini comes in with a tweet. Jets owner Woody Johnson's decision to fire Robert Saleh might seem surprising, but Johnson views this as a team ready to compete now, wanted to make a move to get things on the right track before it's too late. And I do think it'll make some difference. I know a lot of people saying the Jets are still terrible. It won't make a difference. I do think changing the leader at the top from someone that players don't respect to players respect will make players different. And I think Ulbrich is a guy who, they have 8 false starts. He's probably going to make them run laps and do push-ups. And you might think it's too old school. The NFL's changed, but you got to think the human element to this. If you don't change an approach, if you don't hold someone accountable, they will keep doing these things in life, in football. If someone keeps getting arrested, or if someone keeps stealing from the store but never gets arrested, they're going to keep stealing from the store. If someone keeps eating cookies and their blood pressure and their cholesterol go up, but their parents don't stop them, they're going to become a revolting blob. Look at me. So when you keep doing the same thing every week, and the Jets, it felt like we're running the same product out there every week, to the point they lost to Denver in a disgusting game. They lose to Minnesota after a god-awful 17-0 start. And you felt nothing was going to change under this regime. Saleh sucks. He was not a good coach. He's a good defensive coordinator. Let him go be a defensive coordinator. Armand in the chat, hey, Jake, I was proven wrong. Woody grew balls. I think Woody panicked too, because he looked at a team and said, hey, we still have a bunch of home games left, including a big one on Monday night. And if we come home with Robert Saleh as head coach and have a similar performance to what we saw in the last 2 weeks and are 2-4 heading to Pittsburgh, this season slips away. You get to 7 losses, you're probably not in the playoffs. 6, it's you'll likely get in, but it's close. If you're at 2-4, which it still may be, it's not like you fire Saleh, they're going to win. That means they're winning Monday. With 2 primetime games coming up, your season is pretty much doomed. You got to win at least one of these 2 and then start to get rolling and win some football games, string some wins together. I just think Saleh was completely unaware of one side of the ball, clearly, because he never showed up to any of the meetings. They made a big hoopla that he showed up to the quarterback room and the quarterback meetings. And, Jeff Ulbrich is the interim head coach, but the real head coach we know is Aaron Rodgers. And maybe it'll doom the Jets. Maybe a 40-year-old quarterback, Hall of Fame quarterback who's just lost it. He's lost his mind and lost his game. Takes the Jets down with them. But Saleh didn't exactly earn a long stay after what we saw the last couple of years. And I know he had awful quarterbacks. But how many years after year are we going to blame the quarterback? Are we going to blame this? Are we going to blame that? In the end, the head coach gets accountability at the end, despite him not holding anyone accountable. And Woody Johnson held him accountable and fired him today. You got to remember, too, Woody Johnson has never fired a coach during a season. So this is clearly the Aaron Rodgers effect. This is the first time he's done it. It doesn't happen with Woody. He's panicking. He's saying this was our year for a Super Bowl, and the Jets still could go, on a run. I mean, it's 2-3. Let's be real here. They got 12 football games left. But his thinking is, if this gets too out of control and we're out of it by Thanksgiving, what the hell happens next with this franchise? Very funny that Bill Belichick is a name that's out there. And I'm not saying Belichick would ever come to the Jets. He probably wouldn't. But it's something now to watch for the offseason when they look for their next head coach. Unless Ulbrich takes over and does a good job. But I do think Ulbrich is, from what we've seen of Jeff Ulbrich, he seems more like a leader, more like a guy you want manning your sideline. Saleh, every time the cameras, he's sitting like this, standing like this. What happened to the Saleh showing all the emotion he does as a defensive coordinator? It seemed like that's what got him hired. It was his defensive coaching, of course, but it was also his aura and his excitement. And now he would high five players. Went from high fiving players to players pushing him away. And maybe Jeff Ulbrich is the guy. You know, it's usually that coordinator that comes in the head coaching role and takes over and does a good job. When it happens, maybe he's the one. Maybe he's one of those guys that becomes the cool head coach story that came from a defensive coordinator. The Jets tried it with Saleh. They tried to make Saleh a good head coach, and he wasn't. But there's some kind of demeanor. I don't know if it's Jeff Ulbrich's cool, smooth, shaped up gray beard that does it. But he's a motivator, man. He's a teacher. He's a motivator. And I think he's going to work better than Robert Saleh did. Hackett still being employed is my big issue. I'm fine with the timing. I'm fine with Saleh being gone. I'm great with Ulbrich taking over. But I haven't yet read yet. Maybe it changes. But Hackett is still calling the plays. And that's a major problem for the Jets. Major problem. Saleh's 20-36 record ranks third worst behind the Panthers and Bears. That's disgusting. Ulbrich almost left for the 49ers this off season. Saleh was awful. 20-36. That's a top 5 draft pick every year. He's been atrocious. And thank God Ulbrich didn't leave. But something's got to change with the play calling. I don't know if it takes another week. It feels like they should have done them both hand in hand. It's all just very surprising because we didn't think the Jets would actually do it. We thought they would give Saleh the year, and that pissed me off. And I said on the last Jets Flight Club podcast, make sure you subscribe, smash that thumbs up, comment, write a review, that the coaching staff needs to go. But the circus is in town in Jets land, per usual. Hall of Fame quarterback, same circus. The last head coach to be fired 5 games into the season was when Carolina fired Matt Rule after a 1-4 start in 2022. It's amazing that, they're 2-3. They're not 1-4. They're not 0-5. They're 2-3. They're still very much in it. They're a win Monday over the Bills from being tied for first place. It feels like it's a lot worse than what it is, but if you watch these games and if you watch the football, it's been bad. It's been unwatchable. It's been the same penalties every week. So while you can argue, I should have waited for the Monday night. Next week's shorter because of Monday night game. They kind of made it shorter by doing it today instead of yesterday. But I feel like they talked more probably when they got back to the U.S. They didn't want to do it right after, the time difference and being in a different country. They were maybe nice about it, like Saleh is to all his players. He's nice and coddles them. They coddled him before handing him the pink slip. And listen, these people have families. He's got a ton of kids. I don't even remember how many kids he has. Let me know how many kids. I think he's got 8, whatever. But these are humans. So I do understand, like, hey, this guy's got a family. He's still going to get paid the rest of the year. He's going probably to get a job, maybe as defensive coordinator after the season. He'll be fine financially. In some ways, he stole money from the Jets as head coach. He did one side of the football, and the side of the football they needed was what he didn't know. They got a defensive mastermind in Ulbrich. They don't need Saleh's mastermind on defense. So that's the thing with this is like he's great for defense. Well, we got a defensive guy. We don't need 2. It helps, sure, but we have enough talent there that we don't need another defensive-minded guy. We need an offensive-minded guy. And the offensive leader in the room is Nathaniel Hackett, whose ineptitude is off the freaking charts. And that's where I'm a little pissed with this, is that Hackett is still calling plays. Man, I hope Devontae becomes a Jets and kind of turns the story to, all right, less Alan Lazard, more Devontae Adams. That's the next layer of this. And I think this will probably replace our pre-show this week. I'm going to be in New York the next couple of days at the Met games. So, I think the Jets still lose to the Bills 23-20. But this adds a layer to the game. I think it does make this game a lot more intriguing. I think the Jets might have got curb stomped with Robert Saleh and with the same old penalties. I'm very curious to see Ulbrich. Does he ease into it? Does he immediately say, hey, do it again? Blows the whistle, Herb Brooks style. Get back to the line. Sadly, Hackett is here while Rodgers is here. Hackett's my big worry here. Hackett, I'm very concerned that he's still in the building and still coaching because the Jets' offense has been the cause of their issues. Daniel McTiernan writes in, Joe Douglas on the hot seat. Does he stay if season tanks and they end up with top 10 pick for QB? Everyone's gone. I think the only guy that stays is Ulbrich, and he might get a job somewhere else. We'll see. I think now he has an opportunity to audition for either head coach of the Jets or somewhere else if he could go on some kind of run here and lead the Jets as the head coach. This is Jeff Ulbrich's audition. This is his America's Got Talent, his American Idol. This is his time to step in and be like, hey, I could coach you, whoever needs a coach. And maybe it's the Jets. Maybe he's their new guy. And I think Joe Douglas 100% is fired if the Jets miss the playoffs. They're all hand in hand. Douglas, Saleh, this whole coaching tree, if they miss the playoffs, Hackett's gone. I mean, Hackett should be gone now. I'm curious if they have another bad offensive game. Do they just fire him next week? Which would be very Jets if they don't just do it in one batch. If you Hackett has to go, it will just be very Jetsian if they're like, we'll do it next week. Per Jordan Schultz, Saleh came into the building today, business as usual. The firing came directly from ownership. Defensive players in the building are shocked. I call BS on defensive players are shocked. Nobody who's watched us, Mitch Bimes writes in, nobody who's watched us play this season can be shocked, players included. You can't be. It was unwatchable football. Unwatchable. Saleh actually becomes the third head coach in 10 years to be fired immediately after a loss in London. Something about those tea and crumpets in London. Joining Dennis Allen and Joe Philbin. Those long flights make for some very cranky owners. For real. But why wait? I know everyone's like, do I do it now? Why do it next week? Why not just end the misery now and move on? Yeah, I don't think the defensive players are that shocked, considering Quincy Williams in the post game said, we got to hold guys accountable. That's directly from the coaching staff. Players got to hold themselves accountable too, but these coaches run the ship. The players don't run the ship. The coaches run the ship. They call the shots. And I think this team really likes Ulbrich. The roster, the staff, he is a leader. Saleh was looked at like the three-ring circus because it was. Nobody changed anything. He's a big, I want to be friends with the guy. Instead, I want to coach the guy. And a friend's head coach is never going to win. And Ulbricht's got that fire. He's got that fire and desire that this team needs. And I'm not saying they're going to turn around and magically, they're a champion. But they'll be better. They will be better off with Jeff Ulbrich. I think it does make the team better. Hackett still makes them worse, though. So it's almost like 1 foot in, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, because Hackett's still here with them. And it shows you that Aaron Rodgers is the head coach and the GM. Because, they probably went to Rodgers and said, hey, I think we're thinking about firing Saleh and Hackett. And I'm sure that got met with curse words from Aaron Rodgers and him saying, no. Saleh fine. F him. Hackett's staying. And he is. Nathaniel Hackett, what a life. Just awful at his job and just continues to call the plays. I think Roger would have to go to Woody and tell him to fire Hackett. Yeah, it feels like Hackett's here for the long haul. The Rodgers move would have been Hackett head coach. Thank God that the Jets would have been the Jets already the laughing stock, the circus. We get it. 3-ring circus. They would have wrote a movie if Nathaniel Hackett became the head coach, the same head coach who was the only head coach of all time to get fired in his first season. So Ulbricht's the guy. Saleh's gone, 20-36. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Nice guy. You feel a little bit bad for him, but he's had to go. And ta-ta, Turbo Man, you're out. Is there any amount of money that could get Belichick hired? I mentioned Belichick a little bit earlier, that it's another layer to the onion of the story is, he's out there. He's with Underdog doing his thing, his show, whatever it is. But he's out there. And I think Belichick hates the Jets too much to come here. I don't think there's any amount of money that's going to bring him here. So I don't see it happening, but boy, would it be a heck of a story. I think Belichick's content. I'm sure Underdog Fantasy's paying him a ton of money. So I would be shocked if he came here, but I'm sure the Jets will give him a courtesy call. But now we find out, can Jeff Ulbrich lead the charge? Can that gray-bearded, handsome Jeff Ulbrich? Got to give the Jets this. Ulbrich, Saleh, good-looking guys. Hackett, maybe not as much. It's funny. The worst coach on the staff is the worst looking one. I mean, Saleh sucks too, but he was the head honcho. But the worst looking guy is the one staying. And this is coming from a guy who's not very good looking, so I can't say much. But we got a handsome coach who's a leader of men now, Jeff Ulbrich. He's about to get a Gillette sponsor. He's about to get a Just for Men Keith Hernandez. Let the gray away. The gray looks good on him. Bill will coach an NFC East team next year, Cowboys or Eagles. Yeah, if Bill comes back, I don't see it being in the AFC East, but it would be very intriguing. After all he's done to the Jets, after what happened to his brief Jets coaching tenure, if he was here. It's the first time in owner Woody Johnson's 25-year tenure that he's fired a head coach during the season. It happens never. We have seen history. Be a hell of a sign if they go out and beat the Bills now on Monday. And it will show you that the team responded. Be a hell of a story. Now, if they look the same and are bad, if this offense still makes the same mistakes, how do you keep hacking along for the ride? Because he's friends with Rodgers. You can't keep appealing to Rodgers unless Rodgers is winning you football games, and he's not. He took 3 picks. He deserves the same accountability as the other guys. He has not been good. He's been better than Zach Wilson, so I don't want to hear that name again. But he hasn't been good. And I think a lot of that's Hackett, but it's still him. He can't make some of the throws that he made in the loss of the Vikings. Hackett's been bad. Saleh's been bad. Rodgers has been bad. The offensive line has been bad. Alan Lazard continues dropping balls. And that's why I feel like the other move today that happens is Devontae Adams will be a New York Jet. And I'm refreshing Twitter. I'm waiting to see it. I don't think that happened so soon, but the Jets got to fire back at this move after the firing and get Adams here. I don't care if it's panic and you got to give up assets, second round pick, whatever it is. But you gotta bring Adams in now. NYJ Matt quote tweeting. It's pretty funny. All this nonsense about a heated argument between Coach Saleh and me at the league meeting is absolutely false. Is yet another responsible report from the NFL Network. Please disregard from March. Well, clearly there was a disagreement there. This is the Sick Podcast, Jets Flight Club. Smash that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Share with your Jet fan friends. We are, I think, the first Jets podcast to go immediately after the news. We were the quickest. We were the first. We were the Woj of live podcasts right before I was about to head to the train here in Philly to go to Amtrak to go to the Met game. So I have to go because I need to catch this train. But I wanted to hop on here and react. Right move. Circus, yes. But Saleh, keeping him any longer made no sense. The accountability has to change. He's not a good head coach. And next up, I hope is Hackett. By the way, Igor Shesterkin just agreed to an 8-year, $88 million contract. Big morning of news here in New York sports. We got Met playoff game in a couple hours. Saleh's fired. Igor's here for life. What a day. Who's next? Devontae Adams. They're all taking the news away from Mets game day today. I think the Jets lose 23-20 to the Bills. I hope things change, but good luck to Robert Saleh wherever he goes next. Nice guy. You feel bad for him and his kids and his family, but terrible head coach. His run here will be very forgettable, or it'll be memorable in a very bad way. The excuse making needs to end, and Jeff Ulbrich, leader of men, takes over. Good luck to Jeff Ulbrich. Good luck to the Jets. Big divisional game against the Bills. We'll have a post-game show on Tuesday morning after that Jets-Bills game. Jake Brown at Jake Brown Radio at SickPod Jets. Thank you for watching, and share this with your Jets friends. Subscribe, do all that. And, good luck to Jeff Ulbrich. Turn the tides. It's 2-3, 12 games left. Go win against the Bills, and this thing could take a turn for the better for the Jets. And boy, does it need to. And it started with firing head coach Robert Saleh. Thanks for watching Jets Flight Club. Let's go, Jets.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Jets Fight Club on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.